Hello, everybody. Welcome back to I Got a Really Bad Haircut Today. I'm just going to keep doing these welcome back to with random shit that happened to me today's intro. So I asked for a skin to 2.5 fade, but then she cut it somehow shorter than what a skin fade is supposed to be, and then she didn't fucking fade it. So why did I even gave her a good tip. What's wrong with me? Anyways, my hair aside, real quick before we get into the games today, I do want to talk about two things. First of all, well, not really two things. First of all, this channel is like right on the edge of 20K, or not 20K, 10K. Man, I wish I could edit these, but I'm not going to do it. 10K, it's very close to 10K. I wish it was on the verge of 20K, but if you are watching this video and you're not subscribed already, then please do that. Second thing, I got a few comments that are like, why aren't you talking about this game? It's pretty simple. I didn't watch the game. If I watch the game, you're going to hear about it. But if I didn't watch the game, then you're not going to hear about it. There were people asking, like, why didn't I talk about that Nets versus Wizards game? I didn't watch that game. I wish I did because it was a great game, but I didn't fucking watch it. So that's why I didn't talk about the Jazz versus the Pistons, for example, from today. Although I'm sure there are a couple of other games I did not watch. But the first thing I want to talk about is what the topic is in the thumbnail. It is the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics, of course, just won, like literally 10 minutes ago, won their game against the Golden State Warriors. And it was a relatively close game, and they took care of business. But while I hope this doesn't come off as like too negative, I had a whole thought throughout that, and all I could think about throughout that whole fourth quarter was like, why is Kemba Walker shooting the ball this much? And I've had this kind of thought with Kemba with this team last year, but especially this year, though this is only his 7th game with the Celtics this year. I would just so much rather, especially with the leap that Jaylen Brown has made, I would just so much rather have Jaylen and Jason be taking shots that Kemba is taking, especially late in the fourth quarter of this game. Kemba took multiple shots and they were not dropping. In this game in total, Kemba was 6 for 18. I don't know how to look at individual quarters, but I think he only hit one shot in the fourth quarter. It was a three-pointer that gave the Celtics the run that kind of sealed the game, to give credit to him. But he also took a floater that missed. He took a step-back mid-range shot that missed. And all I was thinking was, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are on the floor right now. I would rather them be trying to create offense. And with him making $30+ million over the next 3 seasons, going into his mid-30s, that contract is an issue, especially with Jaylen taking the leap that he has. The need for Kemba Walker as a shot creator is not nearly as significant as it was, because he's not an amazing playmaker, and I would just simply rather have a good playmaker in his place. I said before in the first video I did in this series, or on this channel, I said I would have just rather the Celtics signed Malcolm Brogdon and then use that remaining, like, $15 million in cap space on getting some bench players, because this Celtics team has never really had a bench. And trading this Kemba contract is probably going to be rougher as time goes on, and it's certainly at a very low value right now. So I think Kemba could be a problem for the Celtics in the long term, and that was something I was thinking about throughout this whole game. But for the Celtics game in general, Curry, he has this issue, and I think it's what cost him this game. Curry had an amazing performance, and I am one of the biggest Curry defenders out there, but he does have this tendency that was okay back when the Warriors were the Warriors with KD and Clay and a really good Draymond Green, but Steph cannot keep having these moments where he's just like, I'm not going to shoot the ball for 5 minutes. Can't happen. That's just not allowed. Like this, the times where him being okay passive, him being okay being passive, it was fine when the people filling in for those 5-minute stretches where Curry would not shoot were Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. Now the people filling in for those stretches is Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins, and I don't need to tell you why that is significantly different. Steph Curry can be a killer, but sometimes he decides that I'm not going to do it right now. And that was fine, but it's not fine anymore. Not in the situation the Warriors are currently in. So that's a criticism I have for Steph. Daniel Tice deserves credit for being a really good role player. Of course, people always talk about the Celtics' biggest issue being their center position, which is still true. Excuse me. But Daniel Tice is a good, like, he would be one of the best backup centers in the league. I don't know if it seems like he's getting the starting spot split between him and Tristan. Sometimes they're starting together. It's not like a set lineup thing, but he is a very good role player at the center position, even though he is too small to be your primary center, especially going against teams that have big guys. Other than that, what the hell is up with Boston's defense? At the start of the first half of this game, they allowed Curry so many open threes. It was really bad. And the Celtics defensive rating in general this year is 12th when last year it was 4th. And you can blame that on Kemba Walker, or not Kemba Walker. You can blame it on Kemba Walker, but you can blame that on Marcus Smart being out. But this is literally the first game that he has been out. So not really that. And I'm sure Curry would have had a rougher time with Marcus Smart on him, but still, it seemed like the scheme was like, let's allow these three-pointers. So that's questionable. I also wrote down, is Jaylen Brown a superstar? Of course, this game he did not play all that amazing, but he has been amazing this year, about 27 points per game. I think he's getting to the point where we can start asking that question, which is interesting because last year he wasn't even an all-star, but he has played comparably to Jason Tatum, and last year with Jason Tatum, I was asking, is this guy a superstar? Now, I arrived to the answer of no with Tatum, and I'm still arriving to that answer of no with Jaylen Brown at the moment. But both of those guys are on the cusp, and I think Celtics fans should be excited about that. I don't want to be too negative here, but I do think the Kemba Walker contract is going to be an issue. After that, I kind of split my time between two games. I didn't get to see the fullest extent of both of these games. That was Blazers versus Wizards and Magic versus Raptors. So the Blazers killed the Wizards in the first quarter, so I turned off the game. And then I went to go watch the Magic versus the Raptors, but then the Wizards got a semi-comeback because they were down by 20 at one point, and they made it like an 8-point game at halftime. They gave up 75 points at halftime, but they also scored a lot of points. So the Wizards made that comeback. I came back for the second half, but in the second half, the Blazers kind of just kept the separation. Now, the Wizards kept trying to rally back, but the Blazers just didn't. They would just match every run that they made. I wrote down for here, Gary Trent Jr. is fucking great. If you watch the Sixer series, you know how much I love Gary Trent. And in real life, he is one of the best shooters in the NBA. And he has an attitude, which I just appreciate. Like, he's not just going to knock down 5 threes or 7 threes in a game. Like, I believe he had 7 threes in this game. He's not just going to knock down those shots. He's also going to let you know about it, and I appreciate that about him. And I did write down in brackets, could he replace CJ? I don't mean directly. I just mean if you trade CJ for a forward who can be a very good defensive guy and a bit of a shot creator that would help this team a little bit more, and then you just let Gary Trent shoot the ball 3 to 4 more times per game, would that not make the team better? Gary Trent, I don't think is ever going to be as good as CJ McCollum, but I think being in more of a scorer's role with a rotation player and a starter who is very good replacing CJ, I don't know. I think there's a potential for that to be a little bit better. Shot creation outside of Damian Lillard would be questionable, but that's just a thought that I had. Not something I'm strong about here. Also, I don't think that Nets game where the Wizards played awesome and obviously had that ridiculous comeback, I personally don't think that was again, I didn't really watch that game. I just watched the highlights, and it looked like a rallying point to a lot of people, but the same issues that I've seen with the Wizards in the past were back. So I don't know if that's really a rallying point. Again, I need to watch that Nets game, so if you want to take that with a grain of salt, which I would honestly do, then do that. As for this Magic versus Raptors game, I turned on this game because it was close and because Fred VanVleet was going off. And that's pretty much all there is to say about this game because Fred VanVleet continued to go off after I watched the second quarter and then I kind of split off time for the Blazers game and then I came back. I got half of this game. VanVleet was going off. He had 54 points and 11 three-pointers at the halftime. He was 8 for 9 from 3. The Magic, I wrote down the Magic have a lot of players that I haven't heard of, and it's rare for that to happen. Usually I'd say every team has 2 to 3 guys who I haven't heard of, but because the Magic have had so many injuries, those 2 to 3 guys are solid or in the rotation for them. I also put Cole Anthony is good. I don't know what his stats looked like in this game, but Cole Anthony, he looked confident, and I think he has He clearly has the confidence, but more importantly, he has the skill to be pretty good in the NBA. And then I wrote down in all caps, let Van Vliet get 60, because with like 3 minutes left in this game, maybe 4 minutes even, he was sitting on the bench, and there were like all the Raptors players on the bench were congratulating him for his performance. But like, why not just leave him in the game and let him get 60? Like, I know the injury thing, but come on, man. Let him get 60. Anyways, he also could have tied the 3-point record if you really want it. Come on. I hate when that shit happens. Like, I understand why coaches take their guys out of the games, but I would like to see it happen more. Anyways, the big game of the day, I don't know why I saved it for last, I'm a fucking idiot, is the Clippers versus the Nets. So, first thing I wrote, even though the Nets ended up winning this game, is that no way in hell is this Nets team a legit contender if they're going to play defense like this. Now, that's a pretty broad statement, but basically the point I'm trying to make is the Bucks, the Clippers, and the Lakers, and arguably even the Miami Heat, are too good on both ends, even though the Heat have struggled this year. We'll have to wait and see on that. They're too good on both ends for a team that's only great on one end to beat them, I think. And, I mean, there is a world where the Nets just, like, if Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant all have a hot streak, there is not a team in the history of basketball that is beating that team in a 7-game series if all three of them are on fire. But you can't really rely on that, and defense is not something you can rely on with this team either. And the fact that the contenders in the NBA, the biggest three names, which are the teams that I mentioned earlier, are great on both ends of the court, should be concerning for the Nets. So I wrote that down. But not to be too negative, the Nets did win this game. They started this game with Jeff Green as a small ball 5, which I think is probably the best direction for this team for most teams. Of course, when you're playing the Lakers or you're playing the Nuggets or you're playing the Sixers or whatnot, you're going to need to have a real big man in there that's not Jeff Green, because Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, they're going to fuck him up. But for both ends of the court against teams that aren't like killing it at the center position, Jeff Green is more versatile on both ends of the ball. He is much faster. He can really defend a good amount of positions. He's not a great defender, but like he's not a walking mismatch by any means. Like DeAndre Jordan is a mismatch against anybody that's not a center. Jeff Green is not. Also, on offense, his versatility there is he's a guy who can space the floor, he can create off the dribble, and he can be a pick-and-roll guy. DeAndre can only be a pick-and-roll guy and a lob target, where Jeff Green can space the floor, and really I think Jeff's spacing is more valuable to that overall offense than... Did I call DJ Draymond? I don't know, dude. DeAndre Jordan, he's worse on both ends of the court than Jeff Green, but against the bigger teams, you're going to need DeAndre just because he is a better actual center as being a big guy. But again, neither of those options are really ideal. I wrote down Nick Batum has been a nice surprise for the Clippers. He had over 20 points in this game. I feel bad for Charlotte Hornets fans because Nick Batum has been trashed the past couple of years, and he gets bought out of that massive fucking contract, and then he's a good role player on the Clippers again. I would feel annoyed if I was a fan of that team. I also wrote down, and this could be part of the reason why they lost, is that why are Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris taking like half of the shots late in this game, which was the case. Marcus Morris got an and one at one point, so fair enough to him. But like Reggie took a contested three-pointer. It's like, dude, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are on the court. Don't take that shot. And it was like early into the shot clock. So, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. And then this was an interesting conversation that was going on. Late game, the Nets elected to foul so that they could make a three, so they couldn't make a three and tie. And I was almost going to make this video about Steve Nash and if he was like a good NBA coach or not, because the jury is still out on that. I'm switching to my other leg. I only do that on this channel. You'll never see my left leg on my main channel. So the late in the game, the Nets were up 3, and both times when the Clippers were going for a try to make a three to send it into overtime. I don't know why I'm struggling to finish this sentence so fucking badly. The Nets fouled them. So they got the free throws and they were not able to hit a three. And that's interesting because that's something you always hear the commentators say, and there are NBA people out there that say that's the best strategy, but you don't see it too often. Most of the time teams take the gamble on the three, and I've personally been like, why don't you foul? But it did work, and I wonder if that might lead to a bit of a trend because this was a huge game. I don't know that it's going to have a huge difference. We might see it happen again and then domino effect type shit. But that one was interesting. Also, end of this game, Harden threw a touchdown pass for an and one for Jeff Green, which was what basically sealed this one. So, yeah, the Nets, good game, beat the Clippers, but I don't think they would beat the Clippers in a 7-game series just because of the defensive difference, and I don't think they're going to beat other contenders because of that defensive difference unless they address the defense. Trade for Al Horford. I've said it already. I'll say it again. Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan for Al Horford. Bang. Easy decision. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the games that I watched today. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and bye.